Hey guys, in this video, I'm going to explain to you how you can explain working with real estate agents, the Working with Real Estate Agents brochure to potential clients. That's typically, I find that a lot of agents, especially new agents, have a hard time explaining paperwork to prospects because they're not 100% confident in exactly what it all means. So I'm just going to give you a few tips that have worked for me over the last few years. Um, we're not going to go word for word, but we're going to go over the meat and potatoes so that you feel comfortable and confident as well as your client feels comfortable in what they're signing. So without further ado, let's jump into it. And we'll start by sharing the Working with Real Estate Agents brochure. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with this. This is the actual brochure that the North Carolina Real Estate Commission has, and you can purchase these if you want the nice, pretty ones, but you don't need it. You just need the standard form and the acknowledgement, and you're good to go. But at any rate, um, we'll look at the beginning. And what I typically do is I tell a prospective um, consumer, prospective client that before we do any house shopping or house selling and discuss any details, we need to go over working with real estate agents because the North Carolina Real Estate Commission, um, who I am obligated to legally, requires for me to explain to potential clients how agency works. And so that's what this brochure does. You'll notice in this brochure that it states clearly that this is not a contract. So at this point, there's no obligation. This is just for informational purposes, and I am going to ask you to acknowledge it at the end if you understand everything, just so I can prove to the Real Estate Commission that I did review it with you. Um, because again, the Real Estate Commission requires that you review it, not provide it. You have to review it. So let's jump into it real easily. There's two main types of agencies, and then there's some subcategories. So the types of agency that there are buyer's agents, and that's here, talks about what a buyer agent does. You have a seller's agent, which is here, and you'll see here there's dual agency, which is in a couple different areas, and we'll talk about that later. But let's talk about buyer agency. As a buyer's agent, my job is to help you find the best house that suits your needs, to serve your fiduciary, and to protect your best interest. In doing that, that means that I need to provide information to you timely. I have to follow your lawful requests, and I have to protect your information and only provide it to parties that are pertinent to a transaction. You'll see here that until you make an agreement with me as a buyer's agent, you should avoid telling me any information that would put you in at disadvantage should you choose to purchase a house without representation. And so that's what buyer's agency is. Now, seller's agent works in the exact opposite capacity. They work for the seller to serve their best interests, make sure that they can sell their real estate at the best terms for them, and that seller's agent does their best job to market that property and make sure as many potential and qualified buyers are exposed to it while serving that fiduciary. And so during that period of time, again, until we have a listing agreement, you should avoid telling me information that's going to put you at a disadvantage. Because here's the thing, if I'm not under agency, if we don't have a listing agreement and you're a seller and I bring a buyer and you've told me all your information, then technically, not even technically, but legally, I'm supposed to share it with a buyer that I have under contract. And likewise for a buyer in a buyer situation as well. Now, the next agency type we'll go over is dual agency. Now, this is when a person or entity, if you will, serves both parties. And how does that happen? It's quite simple. I have to serve both parties fiduciary, both parties' best interest, and I cannot put either party at a disadvantage. And so that requires me to serve both the interest of the seller and the buyer. If I'm a dual agent, or if my company, my realty company, both serves the buyer and seller. Say, for example, I list your house for sale, but another agent in my office has a buyer that wants to buy your house, then our company becomes a dual agent. And that's where dual agency is beneficial, because if you choose not to agree to dual agency, what you're doing essentially is you're um, taking out the possibility to purchase um, any of the properties that we have listed as a company for sale, not just me, but my whole company. And we list quite a few homes every year. And so it's important for you to really consider that. It's my recommendation that you do it, because at the end of the day, I'm a realtor and I abide by the code of ethics that has been presented by the National Association of Realtors. And so you don't have to be concerned about whether I'm going to um, tell a seller, that you can qualify for more money and they should make more money. And that's in a situation like that, in a dual agency situation, the only thing I can tell a seller is whether you qualify or not for the property. And the only thing I can tell you is how much the seller wants for the property. But I can also tell you, I could provide you a CMA, a market analysis, and tell you what the property is worth in the current market. As far as negotiations and how you should negotiate, as a buyer, I can tell you what the norm is in the current market. As a seller, I can tell you what houses are going for in the area. And so it's certainly my advice that both parties win in a dual agency situation. And so I want to provide the information that both parties need to make the best decision. So if that makes sense, then I just need you to sign here, date. I'll put the firm and my agent information in. And folks, if you're explaining this and this is before you have someone under contract, it'd be my recommendation that you have them, or you acknowledge an initial that you're by default a sub agent, because you're not under contract with that client. So you're by default a sub agent of the seller if it's a buyer, and likewise. And you just check that block and initial it, and you're good to go there. And then the designated dual agency, I don't really cover that because our agency, we don't have a policy where we have designated agency. But that's just basically when a managing broker says, hey, you're going to be this type of agent and this person's going to be this type of agent. But that's what that explains. Feel free to take a look at it. If you have any questions, let me know. If not, I'll have you sign that and I'll provide this brochure to you so you can review it in detail when time permits. So that explains it. And in fact, that's actually longer than what I typically spend on this paperwork. But I wanted to give you a few notes, some things that I would say in a scripting format that can help you kind of explain it and not get stuck, especially on that dual agency part. I find that a lot of agents have a hard time explaining dual agency and the benefit of it. And so they kind of scare their client into even agreeing to dual agency. But when you look at it, the only time there's a disadvantage in a dual agency situation is when the agent is unethical. And so if you're not an unethical person, there shouldn't be any disadvantage to either one of your clients. In fact, it should actually help both of your clients, because both parties are aiming for a certain goal. And so it's helpful that you can help them get to their goal and no one be taken advantage of. So at any rate, if this has helped you, let me know if you want me to explain any other contracts or any other scripts. Let me know. And until next time, stay bold.